The second thing is to help the client to find a way to navigate out the maze. When the client is stuck in the maze, stuck in the whole process, they're not sure where to go out, what they're really stuck with is that they do not know how to navigate through this maze. Maybe they're stuck at a corner, maybe they're stuck at a cul-de-sac. So how do we help them to re-navigate their pathways to get out of the cul-de-sac, to maybe explore new areas that they are stuck with? So in today's focus, we're going to look at the PCC markers for powerful questioning, and in particular, this composite questioning process that's not so easy to demonstrate, but it's in the context of the questioning process, you're able to see this evidentially produced. So one of the focus that we're going to look at today really is about questions, and questions that shows up the belief of the client. Now, how do we pick that up? Because in the questioning process, we want to be able to pick up the questions or the statements that our clients are making, even the comments that our clients are making, or the observations, or the feedback that we're getting from the clients, and using that and reflecting back to the clients to show them what they're believing underneath all the comments that they're making. For example, if the client is stuck betwixt two things, for example, they said, okay, I want to go here, I want to go there, I want to have a career in engineering, but yet I want to have a career in dancing, yet I want to have a career in that. So they're stuck in between all this. What is the underlying belief that's happening all this? You can see an evidential pattern based on what they are saying and what they're not saying as well. So in this whole process, we're going to explore just that. Okay, so let's go from this notion of helping the clients to go from feeling limited to limitless. So why do we go through this whole process of powerful questioning? Really, it is really all about helping the client to feel more confident in terms of where they are now. They help the client feel more empowered in terms of where they will be, and also helping them to feel that, hey, I have control in my life, not just I'm out of control, but there's some controls in my life. For example, right now in the pandemic, all of us are feeling very challenged because all of us are stuck. We feel that we are trapped inside a certain confines of a certain home, or some of us are trapped at home because we cannot even get out of house because of certain issues as well. So is there a sense of limited feeling, or are we feeling limitless? So at the end of the coaching conversation, we want to leave our clients having a sense and a feeling that they are limitless. So it doesn't matter what happens to them, it doesn't matter what box they're stuck in, but they have this feeling that, hey, I can go beyond my boxes. I can recreate the box within the box. I can even unravel the box because the box is not really holding me down. Maybe the box is just invisible. So what is that box that's boxing our clients in today? And that's what we're going to explore. So in the whole process, one of the big things is we're shifting states. By states, it's something for us to recognize. States are three different components. You have the ecological, you have the psychological states, the emotional states, and the physiological states. And this three will come in congruence when you're having a conversation with the client. You can see that happening in the client's body posture, the client's tone of voice, the client's expression, the smile, the choice of words, the choice of language, the repeated patterns that they're saying in their voice, in the language. So when we say shifting of states, in the whole conversation, in the 30, 60, 2-hour conversation with your clients, you will see state shift. When the client first comes to you, maybe they're in the low state, maybe they're in a state of unresourcefulness, a state that say, I cannot do this, it's not possible, coaching cannot help me, the world is telling me that I cannot do this, the economic crisis is as such, the situation as such, I'm stuck in this country, I cannot go there, I'm stuck, my culture is like this, I'm boxed out, I'm young, I'm too old. So all these are different states, but is it psychological states, emotional states, or physiological states? Now, in the whole coaching process, we're reflecting back to the clients what we're observing of them in that state. And by shifting that, our hope is that they expand their current thinking ability, expands the current horizon so that they can think further and think much more deeper in terms of their current situation. So some of the key components for us to think about or helping clients to go beyond their current way of thinking is these few areas. Number one is the current way of thinking is impeding the progress. So how do we know that their current thinking or thought process is limiting them, or it's an unresourceful state? Number one, it's for us to know and be aware that when we are reflecting back to the client, it's actually impeding the progress towards and achieving something. For example, let's say the client says, I want to lose 10 kgs, I want to lose like 5 kilograms. But every single thing the client is doing, I just want to relax in life, I just want to chill, I'm okay with my size. So that seems to be a conflict there, right? That seems to be impeding the progress. So maybe the client's not aware. In the coaching process, we're bringing the awareness to the client to show them that, hey, maybe that's something really happening for you. There's something that's impeding your progress. There's something that's happening behind the scenes. That's why you're not able to achieve your progress that you wanted to. The second thing is to help the client to find a way to navigate out the maze. When the client is stuck in the maze, stuck in the whole process, they're not sure where to go out, what they're really stuck with is that they do not know how to navigate through this maze. Maybe they're stuck at a corner. Maybe they're stuck at a cul-de-sac. So how do we help them to re-navigate their pathways to get out of the cul-de-sac to maybe explore new areas that they are stuck with? Another possible consideration for us to think about is the sense of getting them lost in the woods and uncertain about which direction they should take. So when they're stuck in a maze, they know there's an outcome they want to get to. But when they're lost in the woods, they're really lost in terms of which direction they should go for. Every single direction seems good or not so good, and they're really stuck. What's the guiding principle? So in this case, we're helping them to identify the compass by which they can decide for themselves which direction to go, whether they should go north, south, east, or west. And the fourth area is this thing. Now that they're here, right, that they're okay where they are, but they wish there was something more. So they're satisfied where they are, but yet there's this little thing on the inside of them say, hey, could there be something more? Could there be something more? So maybe for this client, it's not about just a sense of contentment. Maybe for this client, it's that, hey, I'm happy where I am, but there's something more that I'm going to pursue. So this current thought process is what's underlying some of these clients. So these are just 4 categories of clients that you probably can meet in your coaching conversations. Now, when we take the current way of thinking, our first process is first identifying what their current way of thinking are. The next step is to expand their ways of thinking so that we can see a difference, so that we can see a change, so that we can help the client to see, other possibilities that they probably have not thought before. So first, identify the limits of their thoughts. For example, where are the boundaries of where they are now. The second is to create more choices and considerations for them. For example, maybe they thought there's only 2 ways out of this. Now, exploring with you, there are 4, 5, 6 possibilities, and in each possibilities there are different sets of considerations for them to decide. Now, many people ask me, does this confuse the client? I thought the client came to us for more clarity. Giving more choices, doesn't it confuse people? Well, some people may say it confuses people, but I would beg to differ. When you allow the client to have more choices, now they feel that, hey, I have really explored thoroughly my situation. I've tried different possibilities. I even make a conscious intentional consideration for each one of the choice. So ultimately, whichever choice I make, I know I've processed a lot of different options, and I know this particular choice, it's definitely the best way for me right now. At the end, even if they take a step forward in this direction and they say, hey, things are not really going the way I like it to be, they can still make a pivot to decide to go to another one of the options and choices that they've developed. So really, expanding the choices doesn't lead them to more confusion. In fact, it helps them to gain more clarity about where they want to be and why they want to go through that path. So some people are very clear about this is where they want to go. But when we expand a bit more, then they realize, hey, maybe the clarity that I thought that I had was not really clarity. It was kind of pseudo clarity. It was not a real clarity. It was a false sense of comfort, a false sense of security. So helping them create more choices is going to be a very, very, very important process in the whole coaching journey. The third area is to consider a sense of creating of more awareness and understanding of the situation. So it's on one end for the coach to help the client feel that, hey, the coach is there supporting you, trying to understand the situation, and it's not there to judge you. And at the same time, the coach is reflecting back to you so that you become more aware of the situation. The awareness building is not for the coach. I'm not trying to be more aware of the client choices. I want the client to be aware of the choices that they have at hand. And the fourth area is for us to hear the underlying story that the client is saying to themselves again and again and again and again. What is the underlying story that the client is saying to themselves? Like today, all around Singapore, it's raining heavily right now. So what is the story that we are telling ourselves? Because of the rain, my joints are aching again. Because of the rain, I cannot go out and play. Because of the rain, that's why I'm stuck in this mess. Because of the rain, that's why I'm crying right now. So what is the story that the client is telling us today? So think about this. First, identifying the current state of thinking. Next is to expand the state of thinking. If you're able to do these 2 processes, you've achieved this competency marker. Now let's take a look deeper in terms of themselves. How then do we differentiate between what they have thought about themselves and the situation? There's these 2 full factors. It's not just expanded thinking of the situation as a whole. We want to, as coaches, we want to be precise in our delineation. At the ACC level, it's okay to just say, okay, let's think a little bit more. Let's stretch the thinking. But at the PCC level, you want to be able to delineate between expanded thinking of themselves and expanded thinking about the situation. These 2 are drastically different things. So I give you an example. Helping clients see beyond the current situation, implication of the situation, all the effects of the situation on other areas of their lives. So one is about their lives, right? Themselves. How is this affecting them? Not the situation at hand, but them. as an individual? How is this actually contributing to other areas of their lives? And this is impeding them. Is it impeding them? Is it helping them to progress? Is it limiting them? Is it helping them to be limitless? So first step is really to help them think about what is it for themselves. Are their thinkings expanded for themselves? The second area is expanding the client's thoughts about themselves and the way of thinking about their perspective as well. So how do we stretch those? How do we stretch their thoughts, their thinkings, and the perspective all around them, the assumptions also around them? Remember yesterday we talked about this. We talked about the assumptions. We talked about what's underlying all those different assumptions of the thinking, the beliefs, the values, even the principles and the ideals and the ideology. So now it's really thinking about, one, it's about themselves, and the second, it's about the situation, expanding both sides together, and so that they can see how all this fit together as a composite whole in their own situations. So let's take a look deeper in terms of these two segments. Number one is this: coach questions that help client explore beyond his, her, or their current way of thinking to new or expanded ways of thinking about himself, herself, or themselves. So notice this: it's not just always new ways. Sometimes it's just about expanding the current ways of thinking. Maybe they thought about, hey, maybe all this while I've been doing my intermittent fasting. Now, my expanded ways could be, yeah, I was doing intermittent fasting, but maybe now there's a little twist to it. Maybe rather than doing just a standard timing of like 11 a.m. to 8 p.m., maybe now I shifted the clock a bit more to 1 p.m. to maybe 9 p.m., right? So that I have more flexibility of time because I sleep longer. So this expanded way of thinking is not changing the concept, it's the same concept, but you're not stretching the client's thought process to think about the situation at hand. So some of the observable things you can think about is the questions and observations challenges the client's thinking. And it may not happen for all sessions. It can happen for some, but not all sessions. So not all the time you have to challenge the way the client thinks. The client will get pissed off by you. So for example, you say, why are you thinking like that? Why are you like that? Why are you always being like that? So it can come across as very intrusive, but if you have built the rapport of the client, and if you have form a good trust with the client and conversational intimacy, you're able to challenge the client's thinking about themselves. The second area is questions and observations move client out of the current story that they're telling themselves and helping them to move forward. So an example could be, so this situation is when the client is affected because they're angry with their partners. So this is what we reflect to the clients. Hey, when I was hearing you about the situation at hand, when you get affected by your partner and got angry, what was going through your thoughts? What was happening for you there? So that is a question to evaluate based on what we have heard about the struggles, about the emotional struggles between the partners and how they're affected by it, right? The second area is what happens if you get angry but your response was different. So you can get angry, Mr. Client, but what happens if your response to that was different? What happens if you could change the response you want to give? What happens about that? Just helping them to expand a little bit more, or helping them to stretch new areas of thinking. Then the third one, you mentioned that it's your fault for what has happened so far, and that's all that's happening to you is because of your fault. Why do you think it's your fault for everything? Why do you think it's your fault for everything? Is there something else you're feeling? Is there something more you're feeling? Or is there something deeper that you're feeling? Or what's really holding you back? Why won't you take the leap to go forward? Why not take the leap of faith and just jump forward? So, Mr. Client, I'm hearing you, sharing all these different stories, all your considerations. You've shared with me several components right now. And Mr. Client, I'm just wondering what's really holding you back to take the leap forward just to decide on one? Well, I can't really decide because all the choices seem really good. Okay, so why not just choose one? So that question, why not just choose one? It's a test of the client's current way of thinking. Well, the client may say, well, if I choose one, what if I make the wrong choice? Mr. Client, so what if you made the right choice? What if by not choosing, actually it's stopping you from actually trying to make the right choice? What is really stopping you? Is it the choice itself, or is it a sense of what if there's something better than the choice that I made? So what are your thoughts, Mr. Client? So all these different questions are contextual based on what is said before and what is said after, and in the conversational flow process, this marker will be demonstrated. So that is about the clients thinking about themselves. Now it's about the clients thinking about the situation. So there's two differences, right? So asking the client to look at the situation from a different perspective, asking questions that help the client reframe a problem or challenge, or to even more empowering frame for the client. So an example could be, well, does this happen? Does this only happen in this situation or in other areas of your life, or is it just confined to this context? Is there something else you'd like to explore? Is there something else you would like to do instead? Is there something else you would like to achieve? What else about this situation that we could see that could help us provide new insights? So based on the situation that you're facing right now, so if you were the manager in the situation, how would you see this differently? If you were the staff in the situation, how would you see differently? If you were that boss, how would you see differently? So I give you an example. Recently there are a lot of quarrels and fights from different places around the world between delivery man and the restaurants, right? So we can alter the perspective. So what do you think is what do you think the delivery man is thinking when he's actually having this challenge? What about that restaurant, right? What are they thinking when this was happening to them? So allowing two different perceptual positions, observations from different perspectives to come into play. And also, what if you stood from a different point of view in this situation? Where can you stand? Where else can you stand in this situation for you to have a new vantage point? If all things were possible, how would this problem change, right? If all things were possible, how would this problem change? If nothing is stopping you, nothing's preventing you, if all things were made equal, if everything were made possible, what would change? Or what would make this problem go away? Oh, what if the problem doesn't go away, but you get stronger? So these are different possibilities for you to explore. Now, when we ask these questions also, remember, for these two competency markers and behavior markers, it has to do with the context of the conversation between what the client has said before and how you're asking the question to help the client shift in two areas. One is whether it's a new way of thinking or expanded way of thinking in two different segments. One as the clients themselves, and the second is about the situation, the clients at hand. So when you consider these two behavior markers for your competency markers for competency number 6, powerful questioning, or in the new update competencies about your evoking awareness, consider how all this come to play to help you to stretch the client. At the end of the day, what we're doing here, it's really about evoking awareness for the client to decide, leaving the client with more choices for them to decide for themselves. So at the end, they get to choose which pathway they want to take that helps them the most efficaciously. So this is the powerful questioning behavior marker today. You're going to try and practice with all your groups and see what happens as you try and stretch the horizon, and see what happens for you as a coach as well. What learnings do you get out of it? What learnings does your client get out of it? And it's going to make your coaching conversation even much deeper, even much more powerful.